What's up guys, Tommy Bowie here from Movie Rewind, and today I'll be reviewing the 2013 Doctor Who specials. There will be spoilers in this review, so without further ado, let's get into it. The 2013 Doctor Who special starred Matt Smith as the 11th incarnation of the Doctor and Jenna Coleman as his companion Clara Oswald. And 2013 was of course a very busy and exciting year for Doctor Who fans. Not only did we have part of Series 7 to watch, but later in the year we also had two full-length specials to keep us interested. The first being the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor, released on the 23rd of November 2013, and the other being the annual Christmas special, The Time of the Doctor, released on the 25th of December 2013, which also coincided with Matt Smith's full-time departure from the role of the Doctor. Now, there was a lot riding on the success of the 2013 specials, especially The Day of the Doctor. Of course, it's celebrating Doctor Who's 50th anniversary. So, of course, you've got a lot of different audiences to try and please. You've got modern Who fans, and you've got classic Who fans. And you've got to try and find a way to bring them to different fan bases together. And this is why I am so grateful that Stephen Moffat was head writer and showrunner at the time of Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, because a less experienced writer would have crumbled under pressure and not really known where to go with it. But Moffat didn't do that. He seems to have had a plan all along for the 50th anniversary. And he did a fantastic job at not only celebrating Doctor Who's 50-year history, but also providing a really good story which people can still watch to this very day and be impressed by. And then we move on to The Time of the Doctor, which is not only Matt Smith's final appearance as the 11th Doctor, but also Stephen Moffat's first full-blown regeneration story that he's had to do. And once again, he pulled it off. He had this way of tying up all loose ends, which made The Time of the Doctor a fitting end for the 11th Doctor. So these two specials are really strong, and it's time to get into the nitty-bitty details about what I like about these specials. The Day of the Doctor. Now obviously I hope you have seen this episode before watching this review, because obviously the plot, there's a lot to talk about, so I'm really just gonna give you a couple of brief points about this special and why I think that it worked so well. Firstly, Matt Smith gives one of his strongest performances in the role of the Doctor. I think he knew how big this would be. You know, not many Doctors have been there for an anniversary, so I think Matt Smith had a lot on his plate and he deals with it really well. I love him and Clara. They work really well together. It's a very funny but also supportive Doctor and companion relationship, and Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman have good chemistry and work well together. It's great to see David Tennant return as the 10th Doctor. He hasn't lost it. He's still amazing in the role, and he works well with 11 as well. So those two have some great comedic scenes together which work well. John Hurt as the War Doctor, obviously an incarnation of the Doctor we didn't know about until the conclusion of Series 7. He's really good in the role for a different reason to Smith and Tennant. He's a more serious Doctor. He's a bridge between classic Who and modern Who. And you can really feel this Doctor's guilt over what he has to do. In his eyes, he has to complete mass genocide by destroying Gallifrey for the greater good. And while he knows that it's for the greater good, it's great to see him wrestle with his conscience and guilt over making this decision. And then, of course, Billie Piper, who didn't return as Rose Tyler, but is the voice of this weapon, and she's constantly trying to persuade the War Doctor of what he's about to do and whether he should do it or not. I think it was a nice touch to have Billie Piper portray this character because, of course, modern fans, including myself, Billie Piper was our first companion, so it was a nice touch to see her return to the role. Overall, I like the plot of this special. It makes sense that it's centered around Gallifrey's inevitable destruction because, of course, this has been a massive aspect of modern Who. So it's great to see that we're revisiting it and trying to understand how the Doctor felt when he made that decision. So that is, of course, a really good thing for this special to do. Obviously, a massive part of this episode is taken up with Gallifrey Falls and the idea of the Doctor possessing the moment, which is great. I think that's exactly what this special should have done. But there's also an interesting side plot as well involving a Zygon invasion of Earth. Now, I didn't know who the Zygons were before this episode, but they're a really great villain, these shape-changing characters which are trying to invade Earth because their home planet was lost during the Time War. And I think that's a great idea as well because it links both plot points in this special together quite nicely. With the Zygon plot, you're introduced to Kate Stewart, Osgood, other members of the unit team, and they're really good. They provide good support for the Doctor. I also really like Clara's support for all of the Doctors in this special. Not only does she provide a lot of great moments with the 11th Doctor, I also like her more somber interactions with the War Doctor, where she's basically trying to say, you know, you still look like a doctor, you still act like a doctor, you are still a doctor. So I really like Clara in this special. I think she provides a little human touch to the special, which is always great to see. I think how the Zygon plot ends in this special is done well in the sense that eventually the Doctors force the humans and the Zygons to sit down and sort out their differences. I think that's good because not only is it a decent way to end this plot without any bloodshed, but it also adds some good parallels with the idea of, you know, does the Doctor have to commit genocide? Is that needed or is there a better way? So I think there were some good parallels with this Zygon plot and the fall of Gallifrey, which worked well. The Day of the Doctor, of course, has a lot of clever Easter eggs thrown in for good measure, which is just a treat which Moffat's good at. He's good at providing fan service and it just works very well. I like how this special opens with the old black and white intro. That's just a nice touch which shows how long Doctor Who has been a part of British culture, so I think that worked really well. How this episode ends, I think, is very clever. How all the incarnations of the Doctor save Gallifrey by transporting it to a pocket universe. And I think that was a nice touch because it brought all of Doctor Who's 50-year history together because you had every incarnation of the Doctor involved in the plot. And I think that was a nice little touch. I also like the fact that we see a glimpse of Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor thrown in for good measure. That's a nice treat which gets you excited for future things to come. And also I think that it was a nice touch to have the War Doctor regenerate into the 9th Doctor. Now of course I would have loved for Christopher Eccleston to actually return for those brief moments, but I think it was nice how they did it. It gave the War Doctor an ending, which I think is a really good thing. And plus, and I almost forgot, Tom Baker's return in this special as the Doctor was a really nice touch for classic fans. Now, of course, Tom Baker is probably one of the most iconic incarnations of the Doctor. So I think it was great for him to return. If any Doctor was going to return, I think having Tom Baker do it was the best case scenario. So overall, The Day of the Doctor is an incredibly fun, exciting and amazing Doctor Who special. It celebrates Doctor Who's 50-year history in a really grand way, but it also provides a very emotional storyline as well. The Time of the Doctor is a first-rate regeneration story. It's also a great Christmas episode as well. This episode really does have a warm, Christmassy feel. And I think part of that is to do with the soundtrack. It's very fairy tale-like, which I think was a great touch. But also, the Doctor and Clara, they're a fantastic team. I have to admit, I really like their chemistry together. There's plenty of funny moments between them, but you can tell that they really care about one another and will always try and support one another during problems. So I think that's a really nice companion team to have in this special. The entire plot of The Time of the Doctor is the idea of the Doctor finally discovering Trenzalore, where the Doctor is supposed to die. And he decides that he's going to protect this small town called Christmas from all of his enemies. We've got the Daleks, we've got the Cybermen, we've got the Silence. Basically, any Doctor Who enemy you can think of is probably trying to attack the Doctor in this special. And that is great to see. I like that we have a full rogues gallery. We have scenes with, as I said, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels. I think that's a good point as well, because obviously we see all of these different villains teaming up to try and take down the Doctor. And I also think that the idea of the Doctor protecting this small little town really underlines the principles of the 11th Doctor, that he is prepared to sacrifice his own life to support those who can't defend themselves. So I think this episode really does bring out the best in the 11th Doctor. As a writer, Moffat did a great job of referencing loads of stuff which have been important during the 11th Doctor's tenure, with the crack in the wall, which is a gateway to where Gallifrey is, of course a callback to Series 5. We get a callback to Series 6 with basically them asking what the Doctor's name is, him finally answering the question is also a great callback. So there's a lot of exciting and interesting callbacks during this special which really glue Smith's era as the 11th Doctor together in a very clever way. I also like the 11th Doctor being shown to physically age during this episode, because it's very poignant as the Doctor finally accepts that he is going to die. He comes to accept it, but he's not afraid of it. He knows that the end comes to us all and he's prepared to just accept it. Having said that, obviously the Doctor cannot die because the BBC want to continue the show. So, of course, he had to regenerate in the end. I think it was a nice touch having Gallifrey send him some regeneration energy, just giving him that spark to finally regenerate. And his actual regeneration scene when he takes on the Daleks is really well done. It's great to see the 11th Doctor be that showman again, for him to finally take down the Daleks for now, once and for all. It was a great regeneration scene, but obviously it was only going to get better after that. Now, I'm a 10th Doctor fan. David Tennant was my Doctor, so his regeneration scene obviously is up there for me. But Matt Smith's regeneration scene as the 11th Doctor, I haven't seen a regeneration scene done better than this one. His speech is emotional. It tugs at your heartstrings, and you won't be surprised if you end up sobbing a bit while you're watching it. I think that's because the 11th Doctor's speech doesn't only sum up the process of regeneration in a very clear and emotional way, but it also says a lot about people as a whole. Throughout your life, you're going to change. If that's not physically, it might be mentally, but you are going to be different people throughout the course of your life. And that's fine, but as the 11th Doctor says, as long as you don't forget the people who you used to be. So I think that's some great commentary on people as a whole and how it's okay to change as long as you remember your past. I also like how there's a bit of fourth wall breaking with the 11th Doctor saying he won't forget one moment of this, not one line. I will always remember when the Doctor was me. I think that was Matt Smith basically talking about his role as the Doctor, and it is emotional. It's done very, very well. I also like Clara's involvement in this regeneration speech, how she's trying to say, look, just don't go, don't change, which of course is what the audience would have been thinking at the time. And obviously such a beautiful touch that Karen Gillan returned to the role of Amy Pond. That was a beautiful send-off, and I couldn't have really improved it in any way whatsoever. It was perfect. And then the first scenes with Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor, they're okay, actually. I think he settles into the role of the Doctor pretty quickly, but obviously with every regeneration, you're not thinking about the new Doctor at that time. You're too emotionally distraught with the previous Doctor's regeneration, which of course was done very, very well. So in conclusion, these Doctor Who specials are absolutely outstanding. The Day of the Doctor celebrated Doctor Who's 50-year history in a triumphant way. Moffat provided a fun, exciting and fan-pleasing script, while Matt Smith, David Tennant and John Hurt were all impeccable in the roles of their respective Doctors, which made this a really fun and, let's face it, unforgettable multi-Doctor story. And the Time of the Doctor, one of the most beautiful regeneration episodes I have ever seen. Matt Smith was amazing throughout the course of this special. The plot of this episode was also really well done, and of course that regeneration scene will have you crying by the end of it. So Overall, these specials deserve a diamond ranking. It would be hard to find fault with both of these specials, and it cemented 2013 as a year for Doctor Who fans to remember. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, of course, 2013 did mark the end of an era for Doctor Who, with Matt Smith departing the role as the 11th Doctor. But also, with the 50th anniversary out of the way, Doctor Who had clearly entered a new and exciting era. And it was up to Peter Capaldi and Stephen Moffat to try and make it work. So, I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you in another one. See ya!